Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's your boy Tweedy back in with another video. Today, I'm going to be reviewing Street Fighter 6 from a Mortal Kombat player's perspective. Now, I've never loaded up a Street Fighter in my life, so I'm probably going to say some things, and you'll be like, oh, you're a scrub, stuff like that, but, you know, that's just who I am. But anyways, let's get into it. So, the tutorial is something I want to touch on first because it's a huge positive. I hope NRS games try to resemble the tutorial in Street Fighter 6. It's so good, so freaking good. They even go over, like, in-depth, like, competitive play stuff, like buffering, counter-poking, stuff like that. These are things that I'll talk about, and I always got it, like, someone will come in chat or something like that, or in my YouTube comments, and they'll say, oh, Tweedy, what's counter-poking? What's buffering? Can you explain what it is? Can you make a video on it? And they explain it right in the Street Fighter 6 tutorial. I've never seen a fighting game tutorial go that in-depth. You know what I'm saying? I haven't really played too many fighting games outside of NRS games, so maybe other fighting games do it, but like I played like the KI Dojo, I played the NRS game tutorials, the Dragon Ball tutorial, and I never saw a tutorial go this deep, and I think it's really good. There are some times where the tutorial the devs will try to like give you advice that like, I'm not a top player of Street Fighter, obviously I'm new, but I know like top player mind games, and sometimes they tell you stuff that's just not like right. Like there's one part in the tutorial where it's like, you should think about them jumping whenever you would jump, but the whole point of jumping is when your opponent doesn't expect it, you know what I mean? So that's a little weird, but besides stuff like that, the tutorial is honestly the best I've seen in a fighting game. Now let's move on to the second thing I want to talk about, which is the thing I struggled with the most, were the inputs. Now on NRS games, you go whenever you do like a special input, it's normally like down, back, down, forward, back, forward. Which back forward's a little weird, back forward's a little weird, but unlike in NRS games, in Street Fighter, you have to hit diagonals when you do stuff. So you'll do like down, forward, forward, stuff like that. And that was tough for me coming from NRS games. It was, what really was a struggle for me though, beyond that, was super inputs. So super inputs, you have to do 2 of those quarter circles in a row back to back. And that was really hard for me, especially doing it. Like, if I did, like, a special into it, you know, I wouldn't struggle that bad. But doing it, like, just randomly or off of, like, a single button, I was really struggling, to be honest. And then, you know, people would say stuff like, oh, use modern controls. But the problem with modern controls is I use Manon, for example. So she keeps basically her whole moveset in modern controls besides some key buttons, you know, which it sucks to lose those key buttons. But beyond that, your supers and like your command grab and all that do way less damage, like way less. So someone like me who's like a top player in another game, it's hard for me to lose all that damage, you know what I mean? So I would rather just, if I kept playing the game, I would rather just grind out classic controls and really learn how to do all that stuff. Yeah, losing that damage and the other moves, it's just not worth it. So like modern controls, they're a good addition to like help people get into the game, but I feel like competitively, they're not really that viable. Like maybe someone, you might see like a hybrid player who like, because when you're using modern, for those who don't know, you can actually still do the classic inputs and get the same damage. So at that point, you just lose the buttons, right? So you might see like a hybrid top player who uses modern, and they most of the time do classic inputs, but whenever like say they're reacting to like a drive impact or something like that, they might use the modern input super to get out the super quicker on reaction. You might see stuff like that, but for the most part, I feel like modern controls, you know, not very good for competitive play. If I kept playing, I would just grind out classic. Now that leads me right into the mechanics of the game. So the like main mechanic in the game is like the drive meter, and you can do like drive rush, drive impact, stuff like that. And honestly, it reminds me a lot of an NRS game, the way it works. So the meter, it's like always recharging. And when you're fully out of it, you become like a way worse character, like you're in Burnout. And it's very reminiscent of MK11 meter. Like MK11 meter was always recharging, and then when you're out of it, you can't wake up or nothing like that. Can't do EX specials. So it's very similar to MK11 in that respect, where like the meter's recharging, and when you're out of it, you're a much worse character. And also, like, I know Sonic Fox has said this and stuff, so I'm kind of like, I'm piggybacking off the is it piggyback? I don't. Yeah, I'm like copying Sonic's opinion kind of, but it's true though. The drive impact move, it's very similar to back threes and forward threes from Injustice. So if you're an NRS player, this game's not gonna be like that foreign to you. mechanics wise. Input wise it will be. But mechanic wise, no. Like the mechanics are very reminiscent of mechanics we've seen in NRS games. I'm not trying to say that like Street Fighter stole NRS mechanics, because I'm sure like there's another old Street Fighter game that had similar mechanics, stuff like that. So, and then like the next thing I want to get into is the characters. I actually feel like the roster on this game is very, very bad. I know some people will get upset and say, you know, it's I like some of the characters, like Manon, I think is really cool. Honda, Zangief, stuff like that. But like, where's Balrog? Where's Bison? Where's Cody? Like, I've never played a Street Fighter, but whenever I would watch it, like the characters I thought were really cool, Nash, you know, I don't really see Akuma. You know, I don't really see them in this game, and I'm little even like Karen I thought was pretty cool, and I'm just not seeing them. There are a lot of cool characters, but I mean, it's only 16 characters, and I feel like they purposely left out the coolest ones just for DLC, you know? And then the poster boy is Luke, but Luke is like very cringe. Like, if you think MK11 Cabal is cringe, wait till you see Street Fighter 6 Luke. Like, he is just a ball of cringe. So, yeah, the roster, I feel like, is a very weak point of the game. Now, one thing that is really good that I feel like NRS games need to implement is so not the menus in Street Fighter 6 are like not the best. It's kind of hard to find where to go. But once you figure out where to go, like if you're like a player who plays online a lot like me, the way they do online is really cool, because you could queue for a rank match and then you could sit in practice mode while it's searching. And I know like Tekken and other games do this, and I really hope NRS implements this, because it's really cool getting to sit in practice mode and you can turn ranked on and off from there instead of like having to exit out and stuff like that. So that's really cool. It makes me feel like, I don't know, I can get really in the zone when that's going on. Whereas like you kind of have to pick next, or am I going to play in the next Combat League match, or am I going to go to practice mode on MK? But on Street Fighter, you just do them both at the same time. And if you want to take a little bit more time in practice, you could just switch rank to off. You know what I mean? You don't have to back out. So that's one thing that Street Fighter 6 does that I love, that I absolutely love. And the netcode's good as well too. So it's like honestly the best online experience in a fighting game right now, because other fighting games, they do that, like Dragon Ball, and does Dragon Ball do that? But I know Tekken does, but Tekken's online's booty. So the fact that the online is good and you can search while you're in practice mode, it's just peak online fighting game experience. I absolutely love it. Now the practice mode, that helps me segue right into the practice mode. The practice mode is very good. It's definitely better than the NRS practice mode. I can just tell. I'm not used to like all the menus and stuff with Street Fighter yet, so I haven't been able to use it to like its potential yet, but it's cool. It's definitely, it's great. It's just like in that area, like going online and playing and practicing, they literally, it's literally a 10 out of 10 game. Like they literally knocked it out of the fucking park. They literally fucking grabbed the bat, home run, you know, and major props to Capcom for that. Major props. Now, another thing I want to touch that I can't give too much info on because I didn't play it too long is the single player mode, the World Tour or whatever. I feel like it's not very good. I feel like people think that them putting in a mode like that is going to attract like casuals and stuff, but I actually feel like it's the opposite. I feel like the only people who will really enjoy this single player mode are people who only play fighting games. You know what I mean? So their bar is so low for single player content like that. So like them being able to walk up to Chun-Li and walk up to Ryu and stuff like that and have dialogue and do side quests, that to them is going to like blow their mind. But as far as like the quality of it versus single player content, like a real single player game or something like that, or even like a Call of Duty campaign or something, it's just like, it's not good. It's not. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. And I honestly think like, MK, they don't have like a conquest, like roaming mode or like side quests or nothing like that. But I almost feel like it's better to do like a story the way MK does than to do like some super half-assed mode. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like just give us the cinematic story and give us like the towers and stuff like that. Like, I feel like MK is still king in the single player department. It feels like Street Fighter, they tried to shoot for the stars, but you know, they probably had to spend so much time developing the gameplay itself that they didn't. It's just so half-assed, you know. It just feels like one of the worst like single player games you've ever played and stuff like that. So yeah, the single player I don't think is good. So yeah, that's a negative for me. Now, but it doesn't matter because like I said, when it comes to fighting games, I'm like, I love me some Zelda, love me some Resident Evil, love me Final Fantasy. But when it comes to fighting games, I like to get online. I like to play with my friends. I like to play ranked. And they nailed that. They nailed that 100%. The online ranked is awesome. The ranking system is awesome. The way it resets if you switch to a different character is so cool. The way you could search from practice mode with the in-depth practice mode is so great. So the story mode being bad is like not a big deal. And then another thing, if you're a competitive player, this is like maybe the biggest thing, is Capcom has a Pro Tour and it's guaranteed to be year-round every year. And I feel like that's why Street Fighter is way bigger than MK. Because people ask all the time, they're like, you know, MK outsells Street Fighter, so why is their scene so much bigger? And I think it's because, like, the kids coming up, they have Capcom Pro Tour to look up to. They're like, oh, I want to be in Capcom Pro Tour one day. Whereas with MK stuff, like, they might see a random Evo upload, you know what I mean? Or something like that. Like, there's no Pro Tour that's year-round that's guaranteed that kids can look up to and be like, you know, I'm going to be in that one day. I'm going to beat fucking Tweedy's ass. You know, whereas, like, with Street Fighter, they're like, oh, I'm going to be in there one day. I'm going to beat Daigo. I'm going to beat Punk. And I feel like that's a huge plus, even though it's not in the game. Well, it is in the game. They advertise in the game whenever it's going on. But even though that's not a part of the game, like intrinsically or whatever, it still is like a part of the package. You know what I mean? Like, you're guaranteed that there will be like an esports thing going on year-round every year. And even if you're not one of the best, you could still participate. And it's fun to progress in the game. It's fun to like make little goals for yourself. Like, oh, I might enter this Capcom Pro Tour online stop, and I might try to not go 0-2. You know what I mean? So, like, with Capcom games, I feel like it's just so easy to, like, well, not with Capcom games, but with Street Fighter, it's so easy to, like, see yourself competing. Whereas with MK, it's like, you know, people ask me all the time, they're like, how do I enter this tournament? Did they invite you guys? It's like, oh, you got to go on Twitter, you got to go in this back alley, you got to give the guy the password, you know, type of deal. But with Street Fighter, it's like, everyone knows about Capcom Cup, everyone knows the Pro Tours year-round, everyone knows, you know, so I feel like that's another department where they're beating NRS, you know. And yeah, that's gonna be it for my Street Fighter review. I covered everything I wanted to cover. I've been playing Manon. She's pretty cool. I'm thinking about trying out like maybe like Luke, even though he's kind of cringe. Trying out Honda maybe. And yeah, I'll probably dabble with it until MK1 comes out. Let me know how y'all feel about this game. And yeah, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Later, y'all.